You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks and Zach Bechtold. We hope you enjoy this week's show, and you can find out more about us by going online at beardedtheologians.com, where you can pick up a few t-shirts, listen to a few old episodes, and find ways that you can connect with us. Thank you for listening. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
So this week on the podcast, we're going to talk about peace. Zach, what do you know of peace?
I don't know much of peace. That's a hard word for me. No, peace is an interesting word anytime that we talk about it, but especially in the midst of the season of Advent, the season of waiting and anticipation, often in the midst of what the Christmas season is in our culture, does not birth peace very often. I don't know. There's what we do in the church for Advent and what society does in the world for Christmas really seem to be more and more at odds with each other as far as anticipation and waiting versus consumerism and just hectic, busy schedules and celebrations and all the things. So the idea of peace right in the middle of it is pretty exciting to me. It means a lot of different things. I think when I search for peace in this season, I'm searching for stillness, for that calm, just that calmness that comes with maybe a good heavy snow where everything slows down a little bit, and you go outside and everything's all nice and insulated and it's not loud. Just that sense of peace in that space, I don't know, brings me a lot of comfort, brings me a lot of joy, does a lot of things, but it is probably one of the harder words that we focus on, hope, peace, love, and joy, through the Advent season. That's really hard to grasp because of the nature of the world around us.
I think it's because of the way we view peace.
Sure.
Peace is the idea of shalom, which is the Hebrew word for peace, means wholeness. And this idea of wholeness is not an absence or a void of conflict or struggle. I think to have real peace means that we work towards wholeness. And when we work towards wholeness, we find a sense of peace. When we find ourselves centering ourselves in God in this season, it changes us, it shapes us, it brings us a peace, because then we realize that all those things that we have on our list and our calendars and all the things going on don't matter, because really that's not what this season's is about. And really the idea to be in this tranquil place, this peaceful place, calls us to look at our lives, ask ourselves what's causing ourselves to be disrupted, what's causing ourselves to be stressed, what's causing and literally there are things that we can control, and those things that we can control, deal with them. Those things that we can't control, we must acknowledge them and then move forward, either figuring out how we can fix it or make it better or whatever, or literally just, hey, there's not much I can do about that. There are things that are out of my control that I know I can't deal with. And there are things that I can handle, and the way that we handle that really dictates the peace that we lead into in this season. And we think about Advent, and as we're moving in Advent, and as we're reading through the stories, and peace is one of the themes of traditional Advent. It's a great way to center ourselves, to ground ourselves in what is to come, and really why we need the peace in our lives.
I wonder if, especially with peace, but with all of our Advent words, focus words, hope, peace, joy, and love, if we sometimes struggle with them because in the just human nature to have the opposite of that, that we have to have conflict to strive for peace, right? We have to have hate so there can be love. I'm not; those aren't definitive statements, right? But I'm wondering if we struggle to find peace in this season because we're looking for the not peaceful things, or feel like we have to combat the non-peaceful things, so that way we can find peace, rather than simply settling into what peace is.
I also think it's that we just don't know what the definition of those words are. Like we don't know how to lean into that. Like we look at
Well,
love, like
we'll
let's use
define
love
peace
as
for
an
us then.
I did an absence or what did I say? I can't remember what
I
I
don't
said.
know.
Go
Tell
back.
me.
Uh, it's an act of wholeness. It's literally being made whole.
Mhm,
And the same thing with love. And I think that that's the problem, especially with the English language, is that love biblically has
mhm,
multiple meanings. Peace, not so much. It's shalom. It's literally means wholeness. But like love is complicated
mhm.
because you have all the different kinds of love. I think C.S. Lewis' book on love does a really good job of unpacking those for those who are looking for that. I
Well,
think for
I think peace is complicated too, just by the world
well,
around us.
right, and I
Because
think
what are we seeking peace from most often? What do we pray for peace from war, right?
right,
From violence
right, because we're
and
not
things
whole.
that are. But regardless of that, right? That's our understanding of what peace is the stoppage of harm,
Yeah,
is the stoppage of
but it,
violence and war and things like that,
but I also love that hymn, "Let there be peace on earth, and let it
right?
begin with me." In
Hmm.
that part of the problem why we have conflict, sometimes the conflict, and I mean, you work in a church, so you know this just as well as I do. Sometimes the conflict has nothing to do what the conflict is about. It's about
Hmm.
something else that they're
Right,
bringing with them.
right.
And like if we really want peace on earth, we have to look at ourselves. We have to ask
Mhm,
ourselves what's disrupting us, what's causing us grief, what's causing us strife, what's causing us harm, and how are we responding to that makes a world of difference. And I think of so Sunday morning, we had like the craziest Sunday morning with technology and things ever, like ever
mhm,
in my entire 3 years here. Everything went crazy, and it wasn't right. We could have responded to that in a whole other
mhm,
way. We could have been angry, we could have been hateful, we could have been mean. But when everything started hitting and things started going crazy, I just took a deep breath and said, "All right, so what can I fix? Let's
mhm.
break it down." And so we just started literally unplugging, plugging back in all the things that you do to make it better, to make it whole. And we did. And I think that I've been in situations where that has happened, where the people in the back did not respond so gracefully. And I
Mhm.
think that our response to strife can help dictate peace. And I love. I mean, we sang. So we did Peace Sunday last Sunday, and we ended the traditional service after the sermon by singing "Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me." And I made the comment, "This needs to be. This should be an Advent song."
Mhm.
Because in order for us to move forward, in order for us to be made whole, we have to let peace begin with us. And I think, to me, if you ask me, that's a big part of our problem why we don't have peace on earth right now is because we're too busy, we're too involved with ourselves that we're not willing to deal with the things that we need to deal with to make us whole. But we'll deal with the other things, but we're going to bring that baggage or whatever it is that harm with us, and we're
I
just going to bleed on it.
I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is we're looking for other people. We're looking for other people to bring peace. We're looking for other people to do that work. We feel like, and maybe it's not that selfish of an endeavor all the time, right? Maybe it's just we don't know how. We don't know that it's our job. We're not sure what we can do, and so we're looking out at the people of the world around us, or it's too far away over here in this part of the world that what can I possibly do? But I think you're right. It starts with us and our response to how situations in our life and the world that surrounds us maybe even affect us from afar, if not right on top. Uh, it it's you're right. We have a responsibility to respond in some sort of fashion. It's not always a public response, right? But it's how we respond in our day-to-day lives, in our conversations, in how we carry ourselves, and not letting those anxieties, issues, problems, things going on in the world that weigh us down affect the way that we treat the people around us. Uh, not in not spreading peace from out, right? Like if you're right, if we respond in that way of saying, "Well, crap, this didn't go the way we wanted it to," and my reaction is to get mad and angry and frustrated, well, what are the people around you going to do? Or if we're willing just to say, "It's what we got going on today. It'll be okay. We'll figure it out." That peace then spreads, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think too. like to jump in, we'll go scriptural here. If you look at the Magnificat, Mary's response is very peaceful and very humbling.
I
Uh,
disagree that it's fully peaceful, but sure.
no, she's
Go.
acknowledging what God's going to do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that peace is not an absence of conflict.
Hmm.
So she's acknowledging what God's coming to do. I'm not,
Yeah.
and
No,
one of the
there's a
ties.
heaviness of
Oh
it.
yeah, oh yeah. But she's very like in the very beginning of the Magnificat, she is literally peaceful and saying, "Oh my
Sure.
gosh, God has gifted me this great opportunity."
Hmm.
And let's be real, like we know that one, childbirth is difficult. We know that like all the things that having a toddler Jesus, like we don't have a whole lot on toddler Jesus. Like that's a terror in its own right. Like teenage Jesus, like I mean, come on, like there's a whole other terror there. Like
Hmm.
you know, and so like but she's humble and she's bringing wholeness to this moment where she could have just been flipping out and been like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready. I don't have all the things. Like, instead, she's like, hey, God's coming.
But I think there's an element to that also. We
Yeah.
see the realness of the situation when she goes and visits Elizabeth
Yeah.
and that kind at peace, yes,
Yeah.
but also seeking peacemakers in her life.
Mhm.
She needed to go see Elizabeth because the weight of her Magnificat, the weight
Oh,
of the
yeah.
revelation of what's going on,
Yeah.
she needed some help, right?
And
She needed to go find that peacemaker in her life so that she could breathe.
and one of the things I thought one of the things I tied into on Sunday was if you look at what Mary sings praise, however you want to say it in the Magnificat, then you go look at Luke 4 when Jesus lays out what he's going to do. Woo,
Hmm.
pretty similar things.
Right, right.
Um, uh, and for those that don't know, that's a plot. Like that's definitely probably a plot twist if you're literally just reading the Bible as you go. But um, I think to find peace means it begins with us, and I understand like there are world conflicts. There's all sorts of chaos and things, but the only thing we really can handle is ourselves, like and how we model the behavior we want to see in the world. And so if we want peace, we need to model peace in our world. And peace doesn't mean we try to avoid conflict. I think sometimes people like, oh, I want to keep everything at peace. And so they're not going to have the hard and heavy questions when really in order to have peace, you have to have those questions.
Hmm.
And I've been trying to say that a lot more because I hear that a lot from people like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to have disruption or I don't want to break the peace. And like, really, there's no peace. Like, it's peace. The way you're seeing is not really what we could have if we'd actually deal with the hard things.
Hmm.
So, Zach, where have you seen God at work in your life this week?
Oh, always a great question. Um, I always love the holy seasons. Always love the holy seasons and just how people respond to them. And we've had great groups on Sundays at church, a whole bunch of regulars, a bunch of new people, a bunch of folks that we see throughout the year. And I think my favorite thing that that just brings me joy and kind of see God at work in making space for all people throughout our service and what we do. We've got a young boy toddling around our sanctuary and one the freedom that he feels just to be himself, uh the freedom that his parents feel to let that happen, but also just the church responding in such a way of not complaining, not asking me after church, Pastor, can you make that little boy sit down and make him go to the nursery, those kinds of things. Just that comfort level that he truly is welcome in that space. And not only is he welcome, he's bringing a ton of joy, just quietly as he toddles around and makes himself comfortable. And I hope that for all age groups of people, that if we needed to get up and toddle around dinner service because an hour is a long time just to sit down, um, and be in one space, by God, let's do it. And what a simple way just to be excited and get comfortable in a place that isn't terribly comfortable for a toddler. And so, yeah, I just see kind of the spirit moving around that as we get into this Christmas season, as we head towards the new year, um, and a little guy being able to head towards a faith journey that's that's comfortable and welcoming for him. That's pretty daggum exciting for me. What about you, Matt?
It's been a little chaotic week here at the church, but one of the things that has been kind of cool has been watching. I met with a couple yesterday to talk about the funeral for one of their loved ones, and just to hear people grateful that the church was available to them, even though they don't come to aren't here to for are part of us. Just to hear how grateful they were that they were willing to be for that. And to me, it's just going back to the modeling the people we want to be in the world kind of deal. But like that was just powerful for me to hear that. And so that was just kind of a God moment for me.
Yeah.
I don't think our listeners for listening. We did a crossover show it's called In the Sandbox, right?
Yes.
Or Matt Rawls Sandbox, or Matt and Rachel's Sandbox, or
it's In the Sandbox,
or In the Sandbox, or something. We did a crossover show with Matt Rawls and Rachel Billups. You can find that on there In the Sandbox through Spotify. But we want to thank our listeners for listening. You can check all of our good stuff out, buy some things at thebeardedtheologians.com. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
I want you to subscribe and like this video and push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.